Hello there, welcome back to my channel, Snips by Kelly. I'm Kelly and I'm excited you're here tonight for a laked theme 2-page layout using our amazing Lake Life collection. Lake Life dropped on June 5th and it was the highly anticipated outdoor lake water theme that everyone was waiting for. Close to my heart designed, Stampin' Up sold on my Stampin' Up website, but as you can see, all things lake words, lake icons, but there are so many amazing patterns in this collection that would lend themselves to outdoor. There's even a zip strip with forest and trees and some great word sentiments there. Now, I struggled with what to use with this because I'm just going to use the paper pack here. No stickers, no workshop, and I wanted to really use the Lake Life stamp and thin cuts, but they sold out in a few minutes on the shop site as soon as they launched. And it has this great sign with the words, and my set actually is going to a customer that missed out on it, and so I actually don't even have a set for myself. So I thought I would reach back in my stash, and we had this amazing hooked on fishing set. I was only able to make one layout with it because it was dropped by Close to My Heart right before they closed, and so I only made one layout with it, and many of my paper crafters have that, so that's an option. Stampin' Up also has this great Gone Fishing collection, and I created a Father's Day card with it for my son, and it is an awesome collection that actually creates all the pieces for the tackle box. So I think that would be a great one for this set. I also think the Hooked on Fishing from Close to My Heart would be great, and if you were a lucky one that was able to get the Lake Life stamp and dies, you could use that as well. But because most of my paper crafters have Hooked on Fishing, I'm going to go with that one for this. This is just a bonus layout that I'm creating. I'm using some fishing. It's not actually a lake. It's a dam that we go to, and we go there very often. This is my son Zachary and my grandson Carter Kirk, and he and Uncle Zachary and our friend Spencer, who was our great guide that day, decided to break apart from the rest of the family. And I have some really funny photos here of Zachary with his catch of the day that was actually the size of bait. And then you can see some smaller photos here. This is me. This is how I fish. You get to only see my feet and my fishing pole. So I'm leaned back, probably soaking up the sun and half asleep in the sun with my fishing pole there, just doing its job. So I thought it would be fun. All the other family are jet skiing and boating and doing their thing. And Carter Kirk and Zachary and I kind of broke off from the group with Spencer and did a little fishing while everyone else was doing water sports. So this is what I wanted to scrap, and I'm kind of envisioning this layout here where I can actually get so many photos. So I have 6, 7, 8, 9 photos and a journaling spot, and maybe 10 photos actually with the left side photo there of Carter Kirk. Carter is my oldest grandson. I only have 2 grandsons, and Carter is now 13. So I'm going to go with an 11 3/4 white base over 2 12 by 12 pine. Pine is actually available on the shop site, and it is our white core two-toned cardstock. But first we have to fill up our junk gypsy tray. We need to make some bits. I've been into the Nested Essentials dies lately. They're such a great investment set, and I want to use the largest banner and then the 2 smallest banners to create some bits here that I'm going to use. I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to use it all, but I actually stamped Gone Fishing on one of the banners, and then I found a little lake word there that was on some of the pattern, and then I used the net pattern. And then I'm going to pull a new wonderful, lovely favorite called Frosted Forest. I'm so excited. I actually made my July Stampin' Up bonus kit out of these. So the dies are amazing. They have an exterior and an interior tree, several different sizes and types, and they are so detailed, and I love them so much. which they have the interior part of the tree, the trunk and the branches, and then another really interesting die that actually can create a pop out. It also but sold separately are some masks or some stencils, and they make so many realistic trees. I didn't actually use those on this layout, but they are incredible, and you're definitely going to be seeing some of those. I'm actually going to be launching a video here in a couple days that it is a sneak peek of the online exclusive specials that start on July 3rd, and these dies and the masks and the stamp are part of this collection. So you can see here how those trees layer on top of each other, and even though we're at the dam, we're surrounded by trees. You don't see too many. You see a few little islands and a few little areas here with the trees, but this is an area where we go that has both wooded areas and a very, very large dam on the Oahe. So I'm also going to make some bits, of course, out of the Hooked on Fishing set. So the layout that I created with this, I'm so happy that I created. It was actually of my brother and my grandson, Waylon James, my brother recently passed. So I was so happy. He was an avid fisherman. And I love this set, and I feel like we didn't use it enough. And so we're going to use some of the Stampin' Blends to color on some of the bits. So I created the cattails out of some acorn cardstock, and I'm using a little mossy meadow. And yes, you can color right on colored cardstock, and you can still make great bits out of colored cardstock pieces. It doesn't always have to be all on white. So I'm coming back in with the color lifter because I feel like the reeds of the cattails would probably go from darker to light. They would be a little lighter on top, and I'm being super careful with the lifter. The lifter makes it a little more light, a little more distressed, and it actually fades a little more as it dries, and it also can bleed a little bit. So if you're going to do the color lifter, you probably just want to stay more in the center. And then I've made that look a little bit more realistic there. I'm actually coming in here with bronze, and I'm using a little bit of bronze on the top of the cattails. Then I'm going to come in with light and dark crumb cake for this fishing hat. And I'm going to come in first all over with the light and just accent little bits and pieces of the hat in the naturally highlighted areas that are stamped. So I did stamp these images with the intense black or Memento. You can use the Memento black, and those are colors that are great to be able to color over without a lot of bleeding. And then for the overalls, I'm actually going to use a little bit of light and dark smoky slate. So this is actually a bonus layout for my paper crafters. Sometimes in my Snips by Kelly group, my paper crafters earn bonus things or pre-cut bonus things, and this is going to be a bonus layout for July. So it's not actually part of my Simply Scrappin' or my Sparkle and Shine workshop. I just wanted to have a little fun creating a fun layout that would be simple and easy for my paper crafters to put together, and also simple and easy for me to duplicate. I'm going to be using some of the Lake Life bulk, which is kind of a treat for customers. In the past, customers were never able to get bulk papers, but the bulk papers are a package where they have multiple sheets of one pattern. It's a two-sided, so there's actually two patterns, but it's multiple sheets of the same sheet, which is going to help me here in being able to duplicate this layout because I'm going to be using that bulk paper. But Stampin' Up! Has made bulk papers available to customers, and so they are able to actually purchase a whole package of the same pattern, and it's a great pattern. It actually has the checkered pattern and the oar pattern, and so if you're making cards that you're wanting to reduplicate, it's a great set to have. So now I'm just finishing up here with the light smoky slate, which is all over color, and I'm coming back in on the natural lines with the dark smoky slate, and I'm just giving that a little bit of a shadow around the pockets around the edges of the bib. Now, right now, I'm going to leave the shirt white. I actually like the white shirt, but as you're going to find out, I have not necessarily a problem color in my photo, but a photo that makes it a little bit more difficult to balance the pages. So I'm going to come back in some color at the end so that I can balance some of the left page colors with the right page. And it's a little bit of an unlikely color for the photos, but you'll understand why here soon. And that's why I love to use Stampin' Blends or tri-blends, because you can personalize pages. And then that way, when other people reduplicate them, they can change up the colors to make those colors work for their pages. So I'm actually going to come in with a little bit of a darker pecan pie. So I'm going to go over the pecan pie with it's dark pecan pie, and I'm actually coming back in with the dark pecan pie, even though it's the same color that I'm making accent lines with. Just by going over it twice, it's actually looking darker. So even though the photos that I'm focusing on today I'm not actually seen. You can see my flip-flops and you can see my fishing pole, but I actually am the one, of course, as always, behind the camera. And so I contemplated not putting the Fisher girl in there because you can't even see me. But I do end up using her. She's just a great icon, and I am part of the story. And so I thought I would go ahead and use the Fisher boy and the Fisher girl, and they are so cute. We really underused this set. Like I said, I did one process video, and I'll link that here in the description, creating a fishing page with the Hooked on Fishing. And I really want to finish out being able to highlight things for my paper crafters that they invested in toward the end of Close to My Heart closing, so that they get great use out of it as well. And I think it's really easy on pages like this to substitute things that you have already from Stampin' Up. Just a few little icons that we're using here and there with the fishing. If you were lucky enough to get the Lake Life, you can totally decorate your pages with the Lake Life stamp and dies. And so literally minutes. I was trying to get 3 sets, 2 for customers and 1 for myself, and they were literally pulled out of my cart. And so the one that I did get, I passed along to the customer who had requested, and then many people lost out. So I actually did the pecan pie for the can and came back in with the smoky slate. And then for the fish, I actually did sea foam, a light sea foam and dark sea foam, and came back in with Granny Apple. I was so busy visiting there, I didn't tell you those colors, but just a little bit of coloring on those fish. So I actually did an 11.5 by 11.5 of the ore paper, and I cut a circle out of the center, and it's a 9-inch circle, and I cut that out with my Cricut. But any method of cutting out that circle is great. Now, if you don't have a way to cut on your pattern paper, you could always just put a 9-inch white circle over the top, and we're going to layer some pattern papers here. So we actually have, I believe it's a 2-inch for the checkered pattern. The word pattern, I think, is about 1.5, and I think the water wash pattern is about 1.25, and it isn't so important about that size. And then I have some 4 1/4 by 6 1/4. One of them, the sea foam, the oh my gosh, what's the matter with me? Not sea glass, not sea foam. Hold on. Seabrook. The Seabrook cardstock in the back is 4 1/4 by 6 1/4, and then there is a pine 4 1/2 by 6 1/2. And I can't decide if I want to layer those directly and double mat them, or if I want to offset them. I do decide to mat them, and then a little later I decide I still want some offsets, so we add a few pieces. So every one of my photos today has an 1/8 inch border of white, which is optional for you. You can also do that on your photo printer if you have the ability to add that white edge. So I have this photo here, which is a vertical 4x6. I do want to add some of the frosted forest trees, and I'm just going to actually put one of the top layers on. So I've actually created light and dark pine, light and dark sage, and then light and dark Seabrook. So I've made the pine tree lot larger, and then I've used the smaller tree for the sage and the Seabrook and the additional pine. And then I made the tree trunk in acorn. And so I love those. I don't know if I'm going to use all of those. I actually think maybe I actually make one more of those small ones in Seabrook to do a little balancing. I'm thinking I'm going to use those over on the left, but I want to start with the hooked on fishing icons. So I really love the idea of the boat coming out, just like my previous layout, the boat coming out to the right. It's just perfect for that. The angle of the boat is perfect. The fisher boy sitting on the edge, maybe the trees over to the left somehow, toggling those, maybe having a couple of those popped up on foam tape, maybe having a couple of those flush, because we are in a South Dakota area that is both wooded, and the Oahe is an enormous dam. My family and I camp at the end of July every summer. And I don't know that in these later years I can call it camping. There are so many of us now because our 3 children are all married and we have 8 grandchildren. And so we typically now get an Airbnb that is on a lake or right outside of the lake that has many, many rooms in it. And it makes it easy for us to have lake access or dam access. So what to do. I'm pulling out volume 6 of our Make It From the Heart pattern. And this is pattern number 10 if you happen to have that. But oftentimes I have an amazing single page layout idea. I am famous for having a decorative focal page and then a more functional right page that gives us lots of photo opportunities. And it's just kind of a signature style. And many people do this as well. Sometimes I'll make the decorative page over on the right, but what to do when you have a great left page, but you don't know what to do on the right. Pull out your patterns. So I'm using the word paper here, and it is 2 1/4 by 11 3/4. And then I have a pine piece that is 6 1/4 by 11 3/4. I'm going to add the acorn in there at 1/2 by 11 3/4, and then another little tiny word piece over there that is 1/4 by 11 3/4. I envision using the zip strip, Relax in the Sun, which is what I was doing on this trip. And it is, of course, 1/2 by 11 3/4. I think I'll use that on the right bottom as well, but it will be shorter because we'll be just covering the paper with that and leaving that little white section blank. And I'm envisioning either decorating the white section or using that white section for journaling. So I'm going to put the photo sizes here. So I have 2 3x4 verticals, 4 3x3s, and then I think I'm going to use 3 2x2s. And then I'll have the other spots with the 2x2s. And this is so funny. Carter was laughing so hard. Carter Kirk was laughing so hard because Zachary, the greatest fisherman of all times, caught what we were calling bait. And of course, we didn't get any keepers on this day. We threw them all back, but Carter did get a decent size one. Nothing you could eat or keep, but he did get a much bigger fish than Uncle Zachary. And so we were laughing so hard at Zachary's. And Zachary is big. He's 6'7". And so holding the teeny tiny fish just cracks me up. And and he was laughing and he was getting ready to throw it back. And I'm like, no, we need to take a picture of you with your trophy. So he is so patient. Aunt Zachary Allen with the kids, and it was so fun that Carter Kurt got to come with Grandpa and Uncle Zach. And then Spencer is a friend of Zachary's, and he is a fishing guide. And even though Zachary totally knows his way, he has been fishing since he was itty bitty. He is an avid fisherman. He loves having Spence around, and we're going to all the sweet spots. So now I'm going to pull out those banners that I created with the nested essential dies, and I created an amazing layout using these banners and just layering and layering and layering banners. I'll link that in the description, but the nested essential dies have been my new favorites. They have an elongated hexagon and a rounded square that nest inside each other, and every single one is stitched. And so I'm kind of experimenting here. Sometimes you really do need a really large title. There are times when I use really large titles, but there are also times when you don't need to be afraid to use small words. If all you have are smaller words, you can incorporate those on a banner or on an additional cut out piece. You could put them on a circle. And I think Hooked on Fishing, even though it's a tiny banner at the top, is a great title for this page. And we can actually decorate the circle with the fishing icons or the lake icons. Now, originally I have 2 by 2, 2¼ by 2¼ white squares over there on the right, and I want 2 by 2 in the middle. So I have a 2 by 2 white in the middle of a 2¼ by 2¼ to journal on. And then I wanted to pull that or paper over to the right page because I don't have anything that ties that or paper to the right. I do end up changing it because I don't quite like the way that it turns out or the way that it looks, and I change it to the crisscross net pattern. But right now I just want to arrange all the little fishing icons in the circle. It's a perfect way to decorate. So I'm thinking the cat tails right next to the photo, and maybe a second set of cattails. I actually pull those cattails over to the right. I think the little fisher girl could offset so that the boy and the girl are just kind of diagonal from each other, and we could have put a couple fish over here as well, have some of them jumping and some of them getting close to the pole. And so now we have a little bit of balance there, and I'm liking that. But Zachary is wearing a pink shirt. And so usually when we're boating, it's a tough one because the tube is like bright red. Zachary's boat is bright red. The jet skis are like greens and blues. And then my son-in-law and my daughter's boat is a different color. And then like they usually are wearing like neon. And I have a hard time because this lake life, the whole collection of the theme with the pine and the sage and the Seabrook and the little pops of acorn, you would think that it would be more neutral tones, almost more tones that we have when we're actually camping. Like if we're on the 4th of July and we have tents and we're, out by the lake. But this pink shirt, I have no problem with the photos on the right. They're great. They just go great. It's just fine that he has the pink shirt, but there's nothing to tie the pink over to the left page. And a lot of times I will use markers to be able to personalize colors. This isn't a color that anyone would probably use on their page. And because this is a bonus page for my Snips by Kelly paper crafters, they can make the shirt any color they want. Actually, the shirt would be great as white. In my previous layout that I used with Hooked on Fishing, I just left it as a white t-shirt. So I've actually come in and I'm using the light melon mambo, but that's going to be too bright, so I'm going to color lift. But what you want to be careful of is I put the melon mambo all in the t-shirt, but I left the edges white because when I come over with the color lifter, it's going to spread that color out, and it will actually spread that color, and it'll just look more like a distressed shirt. And I'm happy with that. I was like, this is a weird thing to do. This is a weird color, but I'm tickled because I feel like now we have color balance. So we have have some of each color over on the left and some of each color over on the right, and it just ties in that one tiny little pop of pink. So if you look at the left page by itself, you're probably thinking, what is she doing with a pink shirt in this lake theme? Then when your eyes travel over to the right, you're like, oh, that totally jives. So I'm actually coming in with the sea foam, and I'm coloring the t-shirt with the dark sea foam and coming back in with the dark on some of the natural lines. And so you can use your markers, your Stampin' Blends for regular coloring, but there's amazing techniques that you can do with them yet. I am not that great at techniques with them yet. I keep trying to use them like tri-blends, but the interaction of the colors with these markers is a little different than tri-blends, so I'm excited to really dive in and learn from Stampin' Up! Demonstrators all of the techniques and amazing things you can do with the Stampin' Blends. So over here now, there's just something. I couldn't get I couldn't reconcile the ore paper in that little square, and I thought I would maybe use the net paper and create a visual triangle with the net paper. So I actually have two pieces of paper here that are 2 by 6. I have the Seabrook cardstock on the, I believe it's the light side. And then I'm using the net paper, and I just was bugged by that little space on the left-hand side of the photo. I liked the trees there, but I just really felt like there needed to be a landing base and an offset. And it's really a common thing. You'll see this in pages over and over and over where they've just toggled a couple pieces of paper for a little bit of a background. And we have this great fishing zip strip, so I feel like adding a little zip of that across will also tie in a little bit of the glacier that is actually in that wave paper that is in the torn papers across the bottom. And I thought to pull it over so that I have balance, I did a 2-inch piece of that zip strip over on my journaling. I added my journaling and then a couple little trees over the top of the net square, the little fishing scene, and I feel pretty satisfied, except I think there's more that I could have done in that circle. Oftentimes on the back, when I have a lot of white space, I will do a little bit of rubbing of ink with a blending brush, and often a little splattering either with ink from the ink pad, or I will do a little splattering with a shimmer brush or a glimmer brush or something like that. So I'm just kind of pulling up my pieces gently here, adding a little bit of Seabrook ink. Now on the fishing pole, I used adhesive on the little pooling of the water at the bottom, but I left the top of the fishing pole, so he's really secure, and so is she, with foam dots. But then I actually left the top of the fishing pole open because it looks like a fishing pole coming out from the water, and I really like that look. So I'm adding a little bit of the Seabrook ink over here on the right as well. I'm going to add a little bit of that to the top of the journaling of my written words as well. I did pop up one of the Seabrook trees on the right page, and I left the other one flush there, and I'm getting happier, but I have not chosen any bling, and I definitely need to figure out some bling. Because we're using the paper pack only and we're not using the paper pack and sticker sheet or the workshop kit, we are having to add our own bling, right? The workshop kit has some kind of craft die cuts that come in it. And so we're just using the paper pack and adding the hooked on fishing and the nested essential dies. So I'm going to check out some bling. And I end up going with the adhesive back textured dots, which are my new favorites. Everything, of course, is my new favorites from Stampin' Up, but they go with lots of masculine and outdoor lines. They just really work for a lot of those kinds of themes. But at the time of this video, the Lake Life Scrapbooking Workshop Kit is still available, and the Lake Life Paper Pack and Sticker Sheet, as well as the Lake Life Bulk Paper is still available. The bulk paper, again, is the ore paper, the Seabrook ore paper that is on the circle, around the circle, and then the checkered pattern, which is just a great universal pattern. So those are still available, and I'll link those in the description. But I'm am getting happy. That Lake Life Workshop Kit, of course, has extra specialty patterns. It has some of the die cuts in it. It has some cardstock in it. It has the paper pack and sticker sheet, of course, and all the things. So I hope you enjoyed today's process video. And if you're interested in becoming a Snips by Kelly paper crafter and learning how you earn all kinds of bonuses and things, you can definitely reach out to me. My paper crafting group is called Snips by Kelly, of course, and it is on Facebook. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's process video, and you'll stop back soon to see so many more projects using Lake Life right here on Snips by Kelly. Bye-bye.